maybe 5 minutes or so, like what went into it in terms of your part. So you sent me a track before we got on the call called Lonely by Anna Klein. So I'm just going to listen to about 90 seconds of it live. And I'll pop it in the show as well. Cool. And then we can kind of talk about it. Is that
Sounds
cool?
good. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Let me just bring it up.
Oh man, you're going out again. Get me out the way, got me low, low, so low. Don't push it. Just wanna get to know ya, for ya, show ya. Oh man, don't know where I should begin. This isn't all my fault. No, it's all for all. Give me all or nothing. 'Cause I just wanna know ya, for ya, show ya. Have you ever been so lonely? I know you're lonely, aren't you now? Oh man, don't know if I can pretend. You make it so easy to wonder what you're doing. You know you got me crazy lately, baby. Have you ever been so lonely? I know you're lonely, aren't you now?
Okay. That's a really dope track.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
My initial reaction is I love the vocal effect.
Yeah.
And I love the synth tones. Yeah.
For sure.
So tell me a bit about what the track was like when it fell in your lap.
Yeah, so Anna and I actually have a dream pop band that we've been producing a record together for a while. So she came to me with that song, and it doesn't fit our style, but I listened to it and I was like, I really like. She had that vocal chop part in there, and she had already produced it herself, and it sounded really good. I just helped her with the arrangement. It was sort of like 4 minutes and 20 seconds or something. So it's just like we should chop the first chorus down to half of that, maybe put a taster of the post chorus, or don't even do it, get to that the second time. Oh, so she edited it down. And then right as COVID came, she sent me a version. I thought it was really good. I thought it just needed kind of touching up and mixing and some changes on some of the sounds. So she gave me a Logic project, and I work in Logic as well for production stuff. And so I just switched some of the sounds. I switched the kick and snares out, and I think changed the bass sound. Just once again to something that cut a bit more on like small speakers.
Love the
even
bass
though it's
tone.
yeah, sick. So most of that's just like the Arturia synthesizers, different ones out of there. I think the bass was their Prophet or something. Yeah, so we did a lot of things like that. We sent it back and forth a bit. And then from there, I actually just took her mix and sort of tweaked it. I put buses up and put a master bus and did some tweaks on the vocal bus. I also edited the vocals because they weren't super tight, but they were all recorded at home, and that vocal effect, the filter thing, that was already on there. That was her idea, so I just cleaned it up a little bit more. So I must say, most of the track was already in shape when I got it. It was just like polishing it to the finish line. Yeah, this is cool. I mean, I actually listened to the version she gave me before I finished it, and it is cool by itself. It's just a lot more like, it sounds a lot more lo-fi, sort of like 8-bit music than how it turned out in the end. So it's cool to see the two different versions. I actually think if she had just mixed her version anyways, it would have been cool nonetheless.
That's awesome. Well, how did you track her vocals at home?
She just has like an MX, like a $90 mic she bought off Kijiji.
No shit.
Yeah, through a Focusrite preamp. And, it was all right. It's a bit bright, but life goes on. Whatever.
Yeah, listening to the mix, it sounds bright, but like in a good way.
Yeah, it's not too like harsh.
Kind of gives it this aggressiveness, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the snare's so loud it practically breaks your ears anyway, so it may as well be aggressive.
Nice.
Like
Anything
that whole
else?
mix is about aggression. Same. I think that's actually the mix where I discovered that thing on the mix bus, the HG2, the black box thing. I think that was one of the first mixes I used it on, and I think that was one of the mixes where I bypassed it, and it kind of blew my mind how much it was shaping it. So I really like that. And then once we finished the mix, we just sent it off to a friend of ours called Christian Montano, who runs a place called Montano Mastering. And he mastered it and did a killer job, and that was that. Yeah. It was one of those tracks that was like no stress. It was nice. It was just for fun. And then we ended up putting it out, and it was fun. So, yeah.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah, that's like, I find those are the best tracks when you're just having fun.
Yeah, man, amazing. So do you often find that you have to balance your creative vision with the artist that you're working with? Like,
Yeah.
do you find that there tends to be, I guess like a psychological moment that you have to kind of play psychologist as well as
right? Yeah, totally.
audio engineer?
I think with producing, that's more of a thing. I find when I have a band here and I'm trying to get across an idea, but they are like really stuck in what they already have down in their demo or whatever, then you really got to play sort of like, well, we'll record it and then later we can delete it if you don't like it, and sort of just work your way around those blocks, let's say. But with mixing, I find normally when I hear it right away, I know kind of what the vibe is. So I'll tell them that and make sure that they're okay with that. A lot of the times it's nothing too drastic, but if there is something drastic, I'll kind of okay it with them before I go forward. I'll be like, hey, look, I have an idea. I think we should make this, super lo-fi, or where the drums should just be room mics or whatever. And they'll normally be pretty cool with it, because normally if they've brought it to me to mix, like I've probably mixed a project their friends have been on or a band they like. So they know that a lot of like my sound is kind of distortion and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. Seems to be a common theme among mixing engineers.
I think like that's the modern sound is like saturation. There was a period, if you listen to mixes from like the late 90s, early 2000s, where they're very clean and they're punchy. I mean, they're great, but like very clean. Like listen to those Red Hot Chili Peppers records. They're so clean, which is odd for such a...
That's like the Rick Rubin thing, no?
Right?
Like,
yeah, that is the Rick Rubin thing.
Right? Like I know he produced the Chili Peppers. I was literally listening to an interview with him today, but... Like the Tom Petty record, Wildflowers.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think that like the opening track is just like 100% dry.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just like
he loves dry stuff. I mean, listen to those 3 Adele songs he did on Adele's 21. I think his songs are the coolest on the record, and they're bone dry. There's like not even a second of reverb on there.
Do you remember which tracks those are?
He Won't Go is one of them. I think that's my favorite. The drum sound on that is so cool. It literally is the darkest, driest, deepest drum sound ever. It's so good. But yeah, there are the 3 songs that sound like that. I think one is the cover of The Cure's Love Song that's on the end, and it is so cool. Yeah, the 2 little nylon guitars. It's so nice.
Right.
Yeah. But that's the thing. All these modern records, it's all about like saturation and stuff now, So I'm always just trying to find new plugins that do cooler saturation.
Uh-huh. What have you found other than Decapitator?
I was just going to say I found this cute little plugin by Clevgrand called the DAW cassette. And it's a little cassette, and its wheels even move when you're playing. So that's cool. But it's just like got 3 options for the cassette tape and then speed and flutter and all that stuff. But it is cool. I mean, as we were saying, Decapitator, HG2. And then there's this one that is super cool called, it's XLN Audio's RC20 Retro Color. And it has like 6 little modules that you can open in it, from saturation to speakers to iron, like transformers, cassette tape, all these different modules of saturation. And it makes things sound so cool.
Yeah,
So-
I keep hearing about the RC20, and I haven't tried it out. I really should check.
That's
check it out.
definitely a plugin worthwhile. I think of any saturation, that's probably the one, because it can do everything and everything really well.
Really.
Yeah.
I think when I heard about it, I thought it was like more of like a one-trick pony kind of thing.
It's funny you say that, because when I bought it to open a mix session or an album that had used that on kind of everything. And I was like, shoot, I really need this. So I bought it, and I kind of just used it for that and didn't really realize its purpose. I kind of put it away. And then about 6 months ago, I started using it again. And I was like, whoa, this plugin is really cool. Like, it has a reverb module. Even that reverb's really cool. And then there's a modulation one. It does the Mac DeMarco guitar sound exactly. It's insane. I've never found something that does it so well. That like really soupy sort of underwater sound. It's so good. But yeah.
All right, man.
Lots of different fun things. Yeah, man. Do it.
Amazing. Has COVID made you like rethink what kind of like studio environment is like good long term?
I think somewhat. It's made me realize that I need to invest more in my home setup, just because like in the beginning of COVID, I didn't really want to come to the studio, mostly because to get here, I'd have to jump on the subway, and that's like probably the most dangerous place to be during the height of COVID. So
I'm sure.
I was doing a lot of stuff from home, and at home, I just sort of have a whatever pair of speakers that it's mostly for doing editing and stuff. So I don't really care for the sound, but I bought a UAD satellite so that I could open projects there and have all the plugins. But yeah, the next thing would be probably just getting a better monitoring system going at home so that I can actually, because I was starting some mixes at home and then bringing them here to finish them. And then when I got here, I'd be like, oh no, I'm starting that mix again. I'm not finishing it here. I got to redo it, you know, because like everything I did at home just sounds whack. Like the bottom end's messed up. And
because you were listening through speakers and not headphones.
yeah, I was listening through like pretty bad speakers too. They're like just some ones I found on Kijiji for like $150. It's like really nothing special. Like they're old KRKs, but not even those good old KRKs. They're like these weird gray ones. Yeah, not the greatest thing ever.
Spend a little bit of money on.
Yeah, maybe that should be done. But yeah, now
I've heard those iLouds are really good.
I have too. Apparently they're amazing. I know Kaz travels with them everywhere he goes, and he's like, they're amazing. Yeah. So
it's so interesting to travel with monitors. I did like a songwriting session with I don't know if you know Deco.
No,
they're like a production duo from Europe.
Oh, cool.
Sweden and Austria. Like they just are constantly traveling together to different places, I guess, until COVID happened. So they did like a songwriting session with Alex Clare, he's from the UK, but he lives in Israel now.
Oh, cool.
And he just like pulls these like little mobile monitors out of his bag, sets them up, and it was just like so badass. It's like, these work. I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, see, that's like the beauty is you can pull them out anywhere, and you've got like essentially your control room.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild.
I at the beginning of COVID though, I was, because I found that mixing on those speakers was terrible. I downloaded on Chris Cralia's suggestion. I downloaded the SonarWorks thing for headphones. That actually helped a lot. Because I have these Audio Technicas come everywhere with me, the like ATM 50s or whatever, and they don't actually sound, they sound good, but they're not good for mixing. They're like so weird. There's like you have to make the mid-range super bright for it to sound normal anywhere, so you have to like rip your own head off. But with the SonarWorks, I was able to mix a song at home on them, and then I brought it to the studio, and I was like, yeah, okay, just a couple tweaks and we're good to go. So that software was pretty amazing and pretty clutch at the beginning of COVID. And it was free at the beginning.
I didn't even know that.
It was just like a 60-day trial or whatever, but it was awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Is that something you would think about using in your actual studio space?
Like probably not, because here I love how the speakers sound. I know how they sound. Like I've found that every mix I do here translates.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I wouldn't put the SonarWorks on here, but at home it's like almost indispensable. If we have another lockdown, I'll buy it just for home, because I mean then I can actually work. Or maybe I should just invest in the speakers like I was saying earlier.
Or you could do both.
Or do both.
It's interesting how like you could find like one room just translates better than another room. Like I moved my studio before COVID, luckily, into my apartment by like a few months, and just like this room translates so much better than my last room.
Oh, isn't that nice when you go into a room and you mix and you're like, oh man, this is like not as hard as it always has been.
Yeah, acoustic treatment is worth every penny.
Exactly. It shouldn't be as hard as sometimes it is. Like sometimes I remember, so before, I have a pair of Genelec 1031s in here, which are like the 90s Genelecs, and they're a speaker that I've worked with for not 20 years. I would have been working on them at 10. I don't think so. But for 15 years at different studios, they were always the studio standard, and I didn't have a pair of them. So I had these other Genelecs that I thought would be something okay, and they were horrible. I could not get a mix to translate on them at all, and I would come in and mix for 10 hours and listen on the way home and just be so depressed. I'd just be like, wow, like, there goes another day of kind of doing nothing, even though I spent 10 hours mixing. And then I got these speakers, and ever since it's just been like night and day. It's kind of like being with an old best friend or something.
That's crazy. Yeah. Are the Genelecs like the industry standard of Toronto?
I mean, especially this pair, they're just, and at phase one where I kind of cut my teeth, we had them in every single room. So that probably plays a big part. But it seems that every studio from the 90s sort of has them. It's just like NS10s. It's like everyone who was around in the 90s for some reason has a pair of both of these.
Making new school music with old school speakers.
That's right. I know. I was thinking about that